September 7th, 2001. I woke up late last night in the coldest sweat I had ever encountered. The hair was standing up on the back of my neck, and I didn't feel alone in my apartment. It was unusually cold for a September evening, and each bead of sweat stung like the frozen tundra of February snow. The eerie sensation took me back to the days when I was just a kid, waking up from a nightmare. I had just had the worst nightmare I think I'd ever had. People and debris were raining from the sky, as two tall mountains erupted in flame and smoke, leveling everyone below. I saw what I saw from what felt like a bird's eye view, but when I looked down, I could see great talons clutching my stomach, and when I looked up above me, I saw the most grotesque black face with bright red eyes. Even though I had been saved from the catastrophe below, I could still feel the punctures in my sides from its large piercing talons, dripping my blood all over the dead and the dying below. I woke to the sound of my alarm going off, but it was in the middle of the night. I glanced at my clock, 11 minutes after 9. But I felt sleep paralysis. I couldn't move, and I still felt the creature standing over me, as if it dropped me right here, and I was still bleeding into my sheets. When I finally came to, my clock read 9 minutes after 3. I wasn't bleeding, and I was completely alone in my apartment. Apart from the eerie feeling I still had, I clicked my bedside light on, just to make sure that there was nothing and no one there. After feeling very shaken by the whole thing, I closed my eyes, still unable to get the images out of my head that I'd just dreamt of. The bodies and the fire and smoke, and the thing that carried me. After what felt like 2 hours, I finally fell asleep. The morning was average for me, and nothing out of the ordinary occurred. It was Friday, and everyone at work was preparing for the weekend. It wouldn't be much different for me than it normally would be. I'd be alone in my apartment working on my novel. After Harry Potter came out in '97, I decided I wanted to write a story, but had a hard time finding inspiration until it came to me one day on the way to work, about a mysterious creature that rode a motorcycle. I named the creature Clive Darkin. It would save people from tragedy and mysteriously ride off into the night. It wasn't very good yet, but I was trying really hard to study and practice. My book may have been the inspiration for my crazy dream last night, but I didn't know. It was far too real and far too creepy. About 9 minutes past 11, I was transferred a phone call, who the office secretary told me was from a man named Clive Darkin. I, in disbelief, picked up the call. I had told many people about my book and the ideas I had for it. It'd be very like someone in the office or back home to prank me with such a call. "Okay, you got me. Who is this?" I said. There was a long pause, and a crackle on the other end of the line that sounded almost electrical. It made my arm hair stand on end.
"Hello, Teresa. My name is Clive Darkin. You may remember me from your dream last night. Your dream of mountains erupting in fire and people falling from the sky. I saved you."
The familiar cold sweat and dread from last night washed over me as the strange and distorted voice spoke to me. I wanted to interrupt, but I couldn't bring myself to words, much like the sleep paralysis. "How do you know about that?" I managed to squeak out.
I know everything about you, Teresa. I know the cookies you stole to match when you were in second grade. The boy you fell in love with in sixth grade, Johnny Phelps. The secret you never told anyone the found of your freshman year of college. About a paper you didn't write.
Who are you? I whispered.
I've had many names, but you may call me Clive. Clive brings you comfort, for it is the character in your book, the one who saves people. Just consider me to be him. Do you need more proof of who I am?
How do you know all of these things? I said, scared out of my depth.
One sees much from the depth of the building, much like this one, but not so great from the nabby.
Really, who are you? I asked.
You already know. You've read the stories and have written your own. I'll contact you again soon.
The line went dead, and the look of terror was plain on my face. I couldn't cope with what I had just encountered. I went to my boss and asked for the rest of the day off because I didn't feel well. He agreed that I needed to take some time for myself and feel better, and that he would see me on Monday. The drive back home felt much longer than it normally did, even though there was less traffic than normal. I kept hearing that voice in my head, telling me about things I never told another soul. It wasn't a prank. I knew that deep down, even though I kept trying to delude myself with the fact. It didn't do much good in the long run. As I sat in traffic, the one scrolling text caught my eye, as it seemed to change from its normal stock ticker scroll to something else. 19, AA11, UA175, AA77, UA93, 2997. It repeated that message several times and then went back to the stock ticker. It was very peculiar, and no matter how much I tried to dismiss it, I kept having the sinking feeling that it was connected to Clive Darkin and the phone call. I made it home without incident or anything out of the ordinary happening. The rest of the night was typical of my normal Friday night, but I couldn't bring myself to write. I simply didn't want to open that can of worms. September 10th, 2001. The weekend was uneventful, even though I couldn't shake the dream or the phone call from Friday. I didn't get anything written in my novel. I didn't even try. I was just trying to do anything I could to take my mind off of Clive Darkin. Writing a story about someone of that name would have been the wrong thing for me to attempt. I arrived in the office, and the morning was something boring and normal. My boss came over to me and asked how I was, saying I didn't look much better and I should schedule a doctor's appointment sometime this week. I agreed that might be a good idea, just to make sure I was in good shape. I called my therapist to make an appointment. Hello, this is Tina. Hi, Tina. It's Terresa Smith. I wanted to see when you have any openings for me to come and speak with you later in the week. I don't understand. Are you canceling the appointment you made this morning? She said. What? I didn't make an appointment this morning. I just spoke to you about an hour ago, when you scheduled an appointment with me tomorrow at 9. It was my first opening, and I only had it because of a cancellation. Are you feeling okay? No, I'm not feeling all that well. I need you to do an evaluation of me. I think one of my book characters is real. We can talk all about it tomorrow. I have an appointment coming in right now. If you really need to talk to me before tomorrow, I have a small window at 3 if you aren't busy. Thank you. I'm just a little shaken. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I hung up the phone and got on my computer to check my email. It was normal boilerplate stuff, but there was one strange thing I noticed. I had one unread deleted email. I never delete something without reading it, or at least skimming it first. But there was a 1 in parentheses in front of the trash can symbol. I opened up the folder and it said, "Unknown sender," with no subject. It was just as cryptic as the stock ticker on Friday. N:846 S:903 5:937 93:1003. Somehow I knew that was from him, but there was no email address that it came from, just that line of text. It was so odd. I had no idea what it meant. None of it made sense to me. The rest of the day passed, and there was no phone call from Clive Darkin. I went home and had a normal Monday night. Nothing strange occurred. I went to bed and fell asleep very easily at a normal and decent hour. September 11th, 2001. My morning was supposed to be different than it normally was because of my appointment with my counselor. My normal alarm on my clock radio was shut off last night so that I could set a new alarm, which didn't end up going off. The time read 10:03. The feeling of dread that I had from missing my appointment was weighing heavy on me. At least that's what I thought. Somehow my cell phone was turned off as well. I powered it back on, and after a few minutes it showed up with several voicemails. The first was from my mother. "Teresa, are you okay? I saw all of it on the news. Isn't that where you work? Are you okay? Please call me as soon as you get this. I hope to God you are all right. I can't believe this. Please call me, sweetie." The second was from my father, and it was a very similar message, and I could hear Mom in the background. Trying to figure out what they were talking about, I turned on the TV and saw images of my office building, smoking, and the South Tower wasn't visible. They played footage of it falling only a few minutes ago. They showed as people who were in the upper levels of the North Tower, where I work, jumping out of the windows. It was just like my dream, except these were real people, and they were buildings instead of mountains. I watched all of it in disbelief, and before I knew it, the North Tower fell. My office, my coworkers, probably all dead. If I had gone into work, I would have been among them. Scheduling the appointment saved my life, and missing it even more so. I called my mother and father to tell them I was all right and didn't go to work today. Mom was thanking God, and Dad already seemed to know, as if I had already told him. I asked him why he seemed to already know. "Clive called me about 5 minutes ago. He said you were okay and that we shouldn't worry." "Clive who?" I asked. "He said his name was Clive Darkin. I thought it was a strange name, and he didn't explain why you were okay, just that you were." The phone went dead, and I heard some disturbance, which reminded me of the phone call I received from Clive Darkin on Friday. The voice on the other end was Clive. He didn't say much, other than a string of numbers.
Two, 996.
The line went back to silent as the call ended. Several weeks later, I learned that the amount of people reported dead that day was 2,996. Had I gone to work, the number would have been 2,997. All of it was a warning to me to stay away from work. Clive saved me from the catastrophe. I survived, but I felt the overwhelming guilt deep in the pit of my stomach, because I survived and others didn't. But why me?